America's been dealt the greatest hand ever. We have the best defense mechanism money can buy.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the show. I'm Kevin Estopinal. Welcome to the Kevin Estopinal Show. We got a special guest, man, my guy, Adam Sosnick.
Thank you, bro.
Adam, what's happening,
What's
man?
up, Kev?
Man, so, I mean, you Valuetainment, PBD podcast, you got your Soscast. I mean, you got a lot going on, huh, man?
I'm the hardest working person in show business, as they say. No, that's a different line. But no, busy, man. And I'm also running a financial company. I'm also have a bar down in Miami. So whether it's nightlife, whether it's finance, whether it's podcasting,
You got a bar
we
in
like to
Miami?
stay busy. We're going to go out? What are we doing?
Oh, man, you know, I quit drinking, but maybe I could hit the bar, maybe. I
can't be the bad guy. All of a sudden, Kevin's back on the wagon.
Nah, man. So like, it does. A lot of memories are coming to Miami. Like in 2017 when I did drink and do to live
really?
and all of that stuff, man. It's just like, at what age did you like kind of grow out of that and focus more on business?
What
you know
age?
what I'm saying? Like,
I believe in the 80-20 rule of life. 80% of your time should be working, being industrious, being studious. But then 20%, you got to go live your life, whether that's fun, whether that's going out, whether that's family, whether that's hobbies. You know, all work, no play will make Kevin a dull boy, but all play, no work, you end up broke. So you got to find that balance. A lot of people are really trying to figure out that work-life balance. I want to have a 50-50. Nah, if you want to do something big, I just abide by the 80-20 rule.
do you believe in like going all in though? Like say like you have a good idea, whether it's a business, an investment, like you believe in going all in, diversifying. I mean, you know, you're
Depends
wearing
on what
many
it
hats.
is, though. Depends on what you're going in all in on. Like, how so?
Well, you know, I look back at Miami. I remember being out here in 2017 and like looking at real estate. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's Monday morning quarterback and being like, why didn't I buy anything? And I'd be a millionaire right now.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I'm like, I should have went all in investing in Florida and Miami because, dude, when I get off the plane here and I get in the Uber, it's just like a different energy. I don't know if is Miami just like the hub of like the country? Like
Is it the Latino women that are giving all the energy? What is it? What's the energy?
It's a Latino women.
Is it the empanadas? Is it the Cuban pastries? Is it the coladas? What's the vibe?
I do love the women. I do love the women. That is a big, that would be, you said the 80-20 rule, that probably about 80% of it. But no
doubt.
Florida, South Florida especially does have like a real business feel. And I love that like Miami's kind of becoming like this de facto crypto hub of the world.
Yeah.
And it just seems like this is the place to be. Do you feel that way?
So look, I'm not that dude that just showed up here 3 years ago during COVID. I'm born and raised in Miami. My family's from the Midwest, Detroit, Minneapolis. But my family came down here in the 70s. And my grandfather, respect, rest in peace, he got a place in Miami Beach. And I remember in the 80s going to see my grandfather at his place, like, I don't know, the ocean, the thing, whatever. But what's funny, in the 80s, this is the Cocaine Cowboys days. This is the Scarface days. There's like two things going on in Miami at this time. It's like all the old people are retiring here, just sitting on their rocking chairs, just, you know, getting old. And then you have a lot of the Cubans, a lot of the Jews really being like, yo, what's going on here? Setting up businesses, real estate, nightlife, hospitality, hotels, everything. And, you know, that's kind of who runs Miami Beach, is sort of the pioneers. Whether it's the Cubans and the Latino community or the Jewish community, they came down here. So I've been born and raised in Miami. So I remember in the 80s and 90s, I was the weird cousin. They living down there in North Havana, basically. You know, my family in Detroit, Minneapolis, you know, Chicago, Midwest, New York, whatever it is, friends, you know, they were like, this guy, the weirdo, lives in Miami. Then something started happening in the late 90s. I don't know if it was Will Smith getting jiggy with it, I'm going to Miami, or what it was. But all of a sudden, I started getting calls. Hey, we're coming down for the weekend. Hey, what's up for spring break? Hey, what's up for New Year? I'm like, I'm out here, bro. So I'm very lucky to be blessed in Miami. I've seen when it was nothing. I've seen the growth. But obviously, since COVID, it's now not just a national city. It's an international city. You know, the number one city for Latin America, coming up from Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, they're coming to Miami, no doubt. But, you know, what was interesting, if you need like any stamp of approval, Dana White, you know, we were lucky enough to be invited by Joe Rogan and the UFC to the last UFC fight. I saw Gideon there, by the way. And they gave us like front row seats. Pat's become real tight with Rogan. And it was a success. Trump walked in the arena. The crowd's going crazy. It's the fight that Israel Adesanya knocked out the dude. He did his whole thing. And Miami was on fire. And it's been on fire in a good way since COVID. But Dana White, in a recent interview, said, look, you got to understand something about Miami. Because they asked, are you coming back to Miami? Because this is the first time he's back here. He goes, you got to understand something. Miami's the new LA. What LA was doing 20 years ago or so, or even 10 years ago, Miami has taken that mantle and run with it. And Miami has a good climate for business, obviously no income state. We've got a governor who's probably not going to be the president. That's been great for Florida since COVID. We've got a mayor in Miami, a good buddy of ours, Mayor Francis Suarez. He's the famous "How could I help" tweet from the crypto community and the tech community and the Silicon Valley community. We just got leadership. We've got forever. Miami was just a party city. You know, there's people that made it in real estate, there's people that made it in nightlife, and that was it. Now we have financial companies here. We have cryptos company here. We're starting a media company here. So the future is certainly looking bright for Miami. Just we don't want too many people to know because the rents are going up. The rent is too damn high, but the future of Miami and Florida in general is looking great.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that because remember Austin was kind of coming up a couple years back, and now, you know, a lot of people are leaving Austin, you know, which is crazy to me. But yeah, it seems like you have this huge influx of people for all the reasons you mentioned. But when you mentioned that Cuban and that Latin community, you know, I'm assuming that they're fleeing here because they want freedom. And I think Florida is the freest state in the union. I think your governor does have a big part of that. I'm with you. I don't really want him as president. And, you know, if I was you, I don't know if I'd want him to leave because he would still have 2 more years as governor.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so I would want him to stay as governor.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's really got a chance at president. You think he's going to drop out soon? What do you think's going to happen?
We'll see what's going to happen. You know, we're filming this the week before the whole Iowa caucus thing. He's not trending well in that. I think Trump has a stranglehold and a tight grip on the Republican Party. I don't think that's controversial to say. We see Nikki Haley, what's going on. Chris Christie just dropped out. My dude, Vivek, is making waves, but the numbers don't support him. I think if he doesn't perform well in Iowa, the next state is New Hampshire, where he's not doing well in, and then South Carolina, that's Nikki state, Trump state. So he could be dropping out in the next week or so. We'll see.
Would you? I don't know if it'll happen because they've been kind of having a little beef, you know, Ron DeSanctimonious and Trump. Do you think that maybe Trump could say, you know, hey, Florida kind of was a swing state. Maybe if I bring in DeSantis as VP, this would kind of ignite something. Do you think that's a possibility?
0% chance at this point.
0%?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Trump is the type of person that some people say he's a liar, and some people says that he's tells too much of the truth. But if you just kind of want to read between the tea leaves, once he gives you a nickname, I don't think he's hiring you, bro. Once he gives you this sanctimonious and he says that he's not loyal, I think you're done. So I think Nikki's got a chance. You know, I think Vivek, whatever job he wants, other than VP, I don't think he's a VP type, he can get in the Trump administration. I think that guy is as smart and as capable and as brilliant as there is, and he's such a gifted speaker. I'd put Vivek and Tate in a category of speaking abilities that I've never seen. Like, I've sat down with both of those guys for hours on ends. Their ability to communicate and be smart, but also being like understood. Because you could be smart and you're like, dude, I don't even know what you just said, and that was kind of boring. They have this ability to be super, super intelligent, but also super, super relatable and state their case. So he's a gifted speaker. But back to DeSantis, some people are meant to be governors. Some people are meant to be senators. Some people are meant to be presidents. Like we saw it with Barack Obama, where they're at politically. That guy, he knows what he's doing. Now Biden, you know, I don't know how much time we want to spend on this guy, but you know, he's a career politician that was at the right place at the right time, and people were looking at an alternative of Trump, and they chose Biden, but I don't think it's trending well for him in 2024.
You're not a fan of the Bidenomics?
I don't think anybody's a fan of Biden. I think he's the anti-vote to Trump. I say this all the time. If it was between Trump and a ham sandwich could have won that election in 2020. Just because there's so many people with Trump derangement syndrome. They just can't get over the fact that whatever it is, So I think this time around is different. There's a lot of people that said the following, dude, I would never vote for that guy. Never vote for that guy. He's not presidential. He doesn't have the moral fiber, or he doesn't have the ability to coalesce the American people. But I think there's a lot of people, especially in swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, you name it, that are like, you know what? Don't like those mean tweets, but country was kind of operating pretty well under Trump. So I think they're going to give him a second shot, or even a first chance if they've never voted for him. And he's in all these battleground states. You look at them; they're usually super close, right, within the margin of error. He's up 5-10 in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I get that the polls aren't votes, but they're indicators. Yeah. So I think Trump's kind of.
Yeah, I think if I was on Trump's team, I would be very, very choosy with the VP pick. And I would try to pick at somebody from a swing state. I hope they don't go the Nikki Haley route. I think, and I know, the whole, they want to play the demographics of, having a woman as VP. I don't believe in that. But, I think we're seeing this tide turning. I mean, did you see Charlemagne the God came out and said that, he's done with the Biden-Harris ticket. Yeah. And,
But I think he also kind of threw Trump under the bus as well. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I just like, when you speak about cultures, Charlemagne, like him or hate him, he's an icon.
He's got a voice.
I think he is like the last great radio kind of host. So, but yeah, he's got a voice and impact. But man, really, what y'all doing really has a big impact in, over the last couple of years, man. I don't know if y'all know this, but Vinny, especially you, Pat, y'all been kind of like a voice for the voiceless because, for a lot of people, where do we get our news from? Mainstream media, and now we have this other outlet. But
yeah, no doubt.
I think I'd like to get your thoughts. So normally in election years, they kind of what's called like a zombie economy. They kind of prop stuff up, whether it be stock market or real estate. It's only going to help the incumbent. Do you think that's a possibility of happening?
What, zombie economy?
Yeah, basically Biden prop stuff up, get the stock, get everything, going good. You know what I'm saying? They've already talked, Biden draining our strategic oil reserves to get the gas price low.
Sure.
It's just artificial, basically to make it look like, look, Bidenomics is working. We need another 4 years. Do you think that's...
Well, it depends on how you define what's working. So if we're going to go through the numbers here. So there's a difference between what's going on Wall Street and what's going on Main Street. And I know you know this, Kevin, but... Like, I asked people on my show the other day, the Saucecast, I said, what's the current inflation rate? Vinny was on the show. A couple other people were on the show. 8, 10 girls are on the show. Everyone's saying, 10, 12, 15, 8, 19. Everyone's throwing out these numbers. Inflation in America right now is 3.5%, 3.1%, whatever it is. Meaning, inflation has come down. Everything Jerome Powell has done with the Fed has worked, okay? Interest rates. What's the current interest rates right now? What's prime rate? What are mortgage rates? People are throwing out all sorts of numbers. Okay, the prime's at 5.5. Average mortgage rate's at 7. The consumer index rate that the people pay, not the Fed fund rate, but the other rate that the people have to pay, because the Fed fund rate is for the banks. The prime rate is at 8.5. So people think that things are a lot worse than they are. But when I talk about Main Street versus Wall Street, what do I mean? So I use a traffic light analogy. I like the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid, all right? So most people in life and with their money are either red, yellow, or green, okay? So what does that mean? So red means, I'm kind of drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have enough savings to get ahead. Most people are red. Some people are yellow. They've saved, they're kind of debt-free. Maybe they got debt on their house. They're safe, but they haven't been investing yet, okay? And then a certain few, whether you want to call it the 1%, we call it 10%, 20%, whatever the number is, are debt-free, they've saved, and they're investing. So what does that mean from this traffic light analogy? That the Wall Street is the green light people. If you're a green light type person, right, if you go to the grocery store and you're used to paying $200 for groceries and now you're paying $220, that doesn't change your life, okay? If you go out to dinner and dinner is usually $100, now it's $120. All right, that's nothing crazy. The stock market is the biggest indicator right there. Everyone was calling for a recession. All year, the S&P 500 was up 15%. Last quarter of the year, stock market finished 25% up. So you have $100,000 in a stock market, an ETF or an index account. Now you get $125,000 sitting in your account. Not bad. But most people are red lights. Yeah. Most people are Main Street. Most people are saying, I don't give a shit what's going on with the stock market, I'm feeling what it is when I go to the grocery store, and I'm usually spending $100, and now it's $1.25. Or I'm going to buy a house, and interest rates used to be 3%, now they're 7%. I used to be able to afford this size of a house for this much. Now I can afford this much of a house for this much. So the average person out there is feeling it. The whole point of Bidenomics is he wants to build from the middle class up, right? Versus like trickle down economics, versus tax cuts, what have you, empower the wealthy so they can create more jobs. But I don't know if the average person has bought into Bidenomics. But the numbers, unemployment, inflation, interest rates, that you can use that at different, they're not as bad as people think, but they say that people have a COVID hangover and they're still living in the past from a year or two ago when everything was so crazy, interest rates, inflation, unemployment, what have you, but it's not that bad. But he needs to go convey that message. I don't know if he's the right person for the messaging.
Yeah, there's a saying, governments love to lie using statistics. And one thing I look at is like this shrinking middle class. And a lot of Americans, like you're saying, this red light, green light, and a lot of those Americans that aren't investing. So stock market could be up, but if they're not in, it's not really benefiting them. And, so what I would kind of want to ask you is that this idea of the American dream. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Do you think that this dream's still alive? Do you think it's still attainable to the, not to you or me, but like to somebody younger that's in their 20s maybe?
Great question, Kevin. So the American dream. I love America. I'm never leaving America. I'll travel the world, get a dose of what's going on out there, but America through and through. Ex-fiance, ex-girl, I used to date her from London. We have friends from London. She was Welsh, actually. And I used to show up and the Americans here. I go, fucking goddamn right, John Wayne just walked in the building, right? Proud to be an American. This is when Kanye had that song with Estelle, my American boy. And I was like, hell yeah. But the American dream, I talk about this quite often. I think the American dream is not dead, it's just different. The American dream has changed, and we need to recognize what's changed in the American dream. The American dream used to be get a job, maybe you go to college, maybe not, work for the same company for 40 years, you retire, you get a gold watch, you get a house, picket fence, 2-car garage, 2.5 kids, 1.2 dogs. American dream, you stay put, you build your family, that's how it works. The American dream has changed. Home ownership, it's harder than ever to buy a home. Car ownership, harder than ever to buy a car, meaning unaffordable. So if you're a young person out there, right? So if you're 25, you're 30, and you're like, the real estate people, have done a great job saying that renting is just throwing away money. Really, I would disagree with that. I think the American dream has changed. What I think that young people, what they have to understand is what the American dream was is not what it is now. So my definition of the American dream is financial freedom. Okay, being able to pack up your shit, go wherever you want to go, make money wherever you're at. Now, most people can't do that. Most people have to go to an office. They got to work 9 to 5. I get it. But this whole concept of work from anywhere, WFA, work from home, WFH, whatever it is, that's kind of new in the COVID world and the Zoom babies and all that. Dude, I've been doing that for a decade. Moving to Miami, I live in Dallas, I'm spending time in New York, I'm spending time in LA. That's not new. But what I tell people is you have to understand, especially when you're young, you have to build a structure for your income and your life and your investments and all that fun stuff. But you need to keep your overhead low and your flexibility high. So I say you could be living in Austin one day, next thing you know, you're moving to Boston. Now you're in Boston, now you're moving to Cali. You're out of Cali, you're coming to Florida. All of a sudden there's a hurricane, pack up your shit. A lot harder to do when you have kids. A lot harder to do when you have a family. I get that. But if you're young, right, or if you're a little bit older, like some of us here that doesn't have a family yet, keep your overhead low, your flexibility high. That to me is the American dream. Going wherever you want to go, doing whatever you want to do, making your money without being anchored to this house, to these 2 cars, to this mortgage payment, to this neighborhood, because people want the flexibility to move. People want the flexibility to move around. So you were living in Miami in 2017, now you're back in Louisiana. Who knows what's next for you? You have a wife and kids or anything like that?
Single, yeah.
So there you go, bro. How old are you?
38.
Looking good. So for you, I think that buying is overrated. I think that cars are overrated. I think that the average person is spending $500 on a car, but they don't realize that they're actually spending $1,000 a month on a car. Because when you add up not just the car payment, the interest, the tax, the tag, the title, the gas, the insurance, the this, the that, everything, all the bells and whistles, tire rotation, oil changes, all that fun stuff, the parking, the tickets, everything, whatever happens, that look it up right now. The average American is spending $1,000 a month on their car. That's $12,000 a year. Now, if the average American is making $50,000 a year, that's what percentage of your budget? 25% of your budget on your car? Your car should be 10 to 15% max. So it's just super inflated. Housing. It now costs in America, on average, about $2,000 to rent, but $3,100 to buy. So there's $1,100 spread difference. You know, that's your taxes, that's your mortgage.
The homeowners
The homeowners are insured. You know about this. So there's only 50 top metro cities in America. The LAs of the world, the San Francisco of the world, the New Yorks of the world, the Dallases of the world, the Miamis of the world, the Chicagos of the world. There's only 3 metro city areas where it's actually cheaper to buy than to rent. So let me say it again. Of the top 50, only 3 areas is it cheaper to buy to rent. Those 3 areas, Pittsburgh, I think Montgomery, Alabama, and
Great
Memphis,
place.
Tennessee. So unless you want to be living in Birmingham, Alabama. Sorry, Montgomery, it's Birmingham. I apologize. You know, my Birmingham, Alabama audience out there. But unless you're trying to live in Pittsburgh, Memphis, go Grizzlies, or in Alabama, at any of these cities, New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, it's just cheaper to rent.
Yeah.
Especially when you're young and you have a roommate, you have a buddy, you have a business partner, you have an office, whatever it is. So the bottom line is I think the American dream is still alive and well in America. It's just different.
Yeah, when I ride around the Ubers through Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and what you notice is a lot of mom and pop businesses. Obviously there's chains and franchises, but a lot of mom and pop businesses. That kind of what is my view of the American dream. That hey, look, I can start a business, any business.
Great point.
Any business, and then the family.
Building a
can work
business,
there.
ownership of a business, no doubt.
And then your kids can work there, and hey, maybe they take over the family business, maybe they sell it, and that kind of idea. But going back to what you said about, having the freedom of mobility. Now, you're right about the real estate thing. All the real estate I bought, I was blessed. I bought it, 3-4% interest rates. It's not.
Now it's double.
It's not sustained. And the insurance going up. So I put a pause on that. But
And you're outside of New Orleans,
outside
right?
of New Orleans, yep.
So how much you got to pay for flood insurance and hurricane insurance? Probably unaffordable.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
And,
listen, we're in South Florida. I mean, there's hurricanes here every year. Who knows where it gets to, right? It's like earthquake insurance or mudslide insurance in California. Rough stuff.
I think the insurance industry, I'm also a licensed insurance adjuster, but I think that industry just needs to change. I think the insurance industry is broken. Something's got to change. I know DeSantis is doing a lot here to try to, get more carriers. See, that's the problem they have in Louisiana. They can't get carriers to come there. It's just becoming,
really?
Yeah, it's uninsured.
So you can't even get a carrier to insure your stuff.
Exactly.
But I'll add one more thing. Since we're talking mostly to young people, I get it. If you've got a family, you've got kids, you're concerned about school districts and safety and bus pickup times and all that. I get it. I'm not necessarily talking to the parents. I don't have kids. All my sisters got kids. All my best friends have kids. I'm cool, Uncle Adam. I get it. So I can't really give you the best advice for that because if you have kids, it gets a game changer. But if you're young, flexibility is key. Lower overhead is key. But I'm a big believer in the stock market. No matter where I'm at in the country, I know that my portfolio is okay. That's why a lot of people are big believers in crypto. Used to, Bitcoin is the new gold, as they say, right? So, I've interviewed a lot of gold guys, and it's like, what do they say is like gold, you won't get rich with gold, you'll stay rich, right? It curbs inflation, it's a store of value. We hear that with Bitcoin. You're not putting gold bars in your bag when you're traveling all around the world. You have your little crypto wallet, your keychain, you're doing your thing. Go wherever you want to go. Just don't lose that thing. Don't lose your password. But the game has changed. You don't need a car. You can Uber. You don't need a house. You can rent. You don't need gold. You could get Bitcoin. Like all these disruption. You don't need to rely on legacy media. There's podcasts and disruption. So the game has changed significantly. So has the American dream. So as long as we just adjust our mindset. So a lot of young people are going to get advice from who? Their parents, their teachers, their elders. But the world is completely different from when they were growing up in the 80s and 90s or what have you. So they might be giving you, with all the best intentions, old advice is not applicable to reality today.
Yeah, it's like my parents, and I love my mom and my dad. They pushed me to go to the 4-year degree, but they didn't get a 4-year degree. You know what I'm saying? But that was the idea. That's what their generation was taught. And now, I wouldn't encourage, and I heard you talking with Candace Owens about that what she said, like, pretty much mostly everybody shouldn't go to college. Now, obviously, tuitions are up. Student loan debt is insane right now, and I kind of worry about that, kids taking these big debts, and it's like, man, let me tell you what, I don't know about you, Adam, but, I got a 4-year business degree, and, I don't want to talk bad about the school I went to, but I think I'd have been better off if my parents would have gave me $50,000 to go start a business, and I would have lost every penny of it. I think I would have learned more about business.
You would have come out without the debt, $50,000, you lost it, whatever. We have all the experience in the world. What do they say? A guy with money meets a guy with experience. The guy with the experience leaves with the money, and the guy with the money leaves with the experience. And that's what I think what's happening in college. And there's just sort of like a reckoning going on with like, do we really need college? With the internet, with YouTube, with independent learning, with the rise of entrepreneurship, with technical schools, trade schools. Some of those options would be way better for most people. I think that most young Americans should at least forego college for 1 year. Why do they do that? What would they do? For 1 year, do some sort of civil service, community service, national service, whatever you're interested in. Whether it's an internship, whether you're getting paid, whether you have free rent, whatever it is, join the real world and see what you like. To just blindly go when you're a 17, 18-year-old senior, apply to colleges, you don't know what the hell's going on, you get accepted, you start moving to a random city, you're taking out $50,000 in debt a year, whatever it is. 4 years later, you look back, you're like, dude, I had a great time, I partied, I went to all the football games, I got drunk, I banged the cheerleader, I did all that, but it's like, I don't remember one class I took, straight up. And it's like, but yep, those student loan bills are coming due, unless Biden bails you out, which I don't recommend relying on, but the game has changed, kind of like the American dream has changed. In college specifically, you're getting a lot less value for a higher price. Tell me why that's a good deal for anybody. You're getting the same old education, less value because it's not applicable today, for a higher price. Now, there's certain people that would say, well, what do you mean? Didn't you go to college? Yeah, I went to college. I learned more EQ than IQ, how to get along. This is a good person, scumbag. That girl, all right, cool, stay away from her. Don't fight with those guys, they'll fuck you up. You can definitely mess with this dude. Like, you can learn a lot of things in college, that's great. But if you ask me if I got smarter in college, I don't know about that. So, is college worth it? We'll see. It also depends on what your major is. The STEM thing, science, technology, engineering, math. If that's what you're gonna do, go for it. If you know you're gonna be a doctor, yeah, I would like the person that's doing the surgery on me to actually have read the books and done the work. If you're representing me as a lawyer, yeah, I'd like you to read the books and go to law school. Okay, cool. There's certain things there. But if you're going to get a journalism degree, if you're going to get a liberal arts degree, or if you're going to do basketweaving.com, whatever it is, do you really need to spend 4 years on that? And I think, I agree with you, with your parents. You probably learn a lot more with $50,000 even if you lose it. But then now you understand how business is versus just pumping it into college and having the college experience. But I get it. People want to have the college experience as a de facto
What is
option.
the college experience? Let's be out. What is the
higher body count, more debt, and more blackout nights. That's what I remember.
Yeah, I don't think parents really know what really goes on.
Well, Will Smith once said, parents just don't understand, bro.
Yeah,
so that's one of the few things he's got right in recent years.
Do you think, though, like, for entrepreneurs, I know one big thing a lot of entrepreneurs talk about is, like, you got to leave your hometown. Like, luckily for you, you said Miami wasn't really the place, but it grew to be the place. So you were kind of already cemented.
No, I'm doubling down on Miami. I'm not moving out of Miami looking for something better. I'm good.
Your network's built here.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? People come here looking for you, to come do stuff like this, consulting. But do you think maybe for somebody younger that forgoes college, that says, does he need to be a small fish in a big pond, or maybe stay in his hometown and build up his reputation and his experience in his hometown, or relocate to where the money's at?
Follow the money, FTM, bro. It depends on where you're living, So if you're in, let me pick a city, Des Moines, Iowa, and you're like, bro, I'm bigger than Des Moines. All right, move to Chicago, right? That's sort of the capital of the Midwest. If you're outside of Jersey, dude, move to the city. Get a, shoebox with a buddy of yours. Start grinding it out. I would always recommend, especially when you're young, taking risks. The greatest thing that I did when I was young is, dude, I tried everything. What did I try? Everything. Dude, I was a jack of all trades. I was working in nightlife. I was working in hospitality. I was doing stand-up. I tried real estate, tried to become a sports agent. I was a teacher. I did everything and anything. I made no money. But what I did in the process was rule out, I don't really like real estate. Welcome to the kitchen and the brass. Who gives a shit, right? That's not my thing. I realized teaching's great, but I don't like being broke my whole life, and I don't need summers off. I'll be okay. So I realized, all right, I like some of these things, and I don't like some of these things. You know what? Sports agent. Every guy wants to be a sports agent, but then you realize you get to the sports agent world, it's like, I'm a professional babysitter for 22-year-old guys. That's cool when you're 25, when you're 30, but now when you're 45 and you're in your family and some 22-year-old NFL player just got a DUI and you're dealing with that nonsense. So
I used to want to be an agent.
Every dude does, bro. One of my cousins is one of the biggest NFL agents out there. Every time I see him, he's like, he flew into Miami for the holidays. He left 2 days later because some kid had a bowl game and the Chick-fil-A game, and he had to go check him out, and he came back. It's a different world. It's a job. It's not just sports. It's all the glitz and the glamour. But I was making a point there about leaving your hometown and getting uncomfortable. Dude, you have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. You have to understand that, like, I was a jack of all trades, but then I got out of Miami. It's funny. I got out of Miami, came an hour north to Boca because I had to get out of the party and nightlife scene, stop waking up hungover at noon every single day. That's fun. You got to leave. I got to go. Boom. And I moved up to Boca to, like, get some clarity. And I took a grunt cold calling job for a financial firm and ate shit for a year, but I developed myself. I developed competence. You know, that competence leads to confidence. All of a sudden, I'm on the call. I'm doing this thing. Next thing I know, I go from making $5,000 in my first year to $100,000 in my second year, and I've never looked back. It's been 17 years, and I still run that financial company when I'm not doing podcasts with PBD. That's how I met PBD. But the bottom line is, for me, try everything. Start crossing. You might not know what you want to do, but start crossing things off the list. Nah, I don't want to do this. I don't do this. But at some point, if you want to make money, you need to go from a jack of all trades to a specialist and be known for one thing. And that's what I did. I became a financial specialist, financial expert at this one thing. It's how I met PBD. And the rest is history. Now I'm a semi-professional podcaster out here.
It was a kind of winding road, it sounds like. You know, I've gone on a similar journey, and it's like you don't, until you get to the end of that journey and really look back, oh, that's where I got that skill from. Now, let's go back to what you said, that first year in sales, you made $5,000. The second year, you made $100,000. A lot of people are going to want to know all about the $100,000. I think that kind of describes entrepreneurship and what people think entrepreneurship is. But I got an idea that first year when you made $5,000, it felt like you were basically getting punched in the face every single day.
Every day.
Yeah. And
but I knew what I was getting myself into, though.
But that is entrepreneurship, and most people, I don't think, make it through that first year.
So I think, great point. You know, most people, you know, what do they say? That most people will give up after the second attempt, but it takes 5 attempts to make a sale. But defining entrepreneurship. So what my skill set is, what I've realized, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an intrapreneur. Okay? I find a company that is doing something. I don't necessarily want to take on the risk. I'm sort of risk adverse. I don't want to put down $100,000 of capital. I don't want to hire an HR department. I don't want to deal with, you know, state tax and income tax. That's not my thing. I like low overhead, keep it moving, keep it grooving. But I've realized I'm a great number 2. Dude, you run the business, you're the CEO, I'll run the sales desk. I'll be the chief marketing officer. I'll be the biz dev guy. I got you. Now, do I make as much money as the CEO? No. But I don't have as many gray hairs as a lot of the CEOs or the guys that are starting the company. So I realized my skill set is that sometimes it's better to be the number 2 depending on your personality. So for me, I'll be PBD's number 2 all day.
Yeah.
I'll be my financial company. I'm the number 2 all day, all good. I know, you know, the ego is not your amigo. I'm the best. I'm number 1. I'm the motherfucking millionaire second best. Good. I'll take it. So for me, I think that's important. So, but to even get to that point, I had to eat shit for a year, making cold calls, getting rejected. People say, "No fucking call me." It's like, I'm a nice guy, man. And a word that I'm obsessed with is resilience. You know, the whole get knocked down 10, get up 11 times. Resilient, that word is so powerful. because we're all going to get punched in the face.
Oh, yeah.
We're all going to get broken up with a girl. We're all going to have some heartache or headache or drama. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. But what happens when you do that? Do you cry and break down? I can't do this. Or do you take a second and be like, dude, that sucked. Wallow in it for a second. Be like, all right, cool. Next phone call. Let's go. You have to.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point when you talked about the EQ, and I think that's where the EQ comes from, because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and business people, they want to be PBD. They want to be Elon Musk, and I like what you said, that that's not everybody. You have to have that self-awareness, and most people are a legend in their own mind. Like, they think they're a lot better than they are, and I know y'all like to use a lot of sports analogies. Didn't Damian Lillard just go to Milwaukee? I believe.
Yeah, he's playing with Giannis.
Exactly. So he knows he's a number one, right? But in that scenario, he's the number two, and there's no ego, because it's about the bigger picture.
But where did he get as a number one in Portland?
Exactly.
If you really want to go down that rabbit hole, awesome player, awesome guy. Barely made the playoffs. Dame time. We all remember that situation. Never went to a finals. Now I don't think he went to a conference final.
Takes a team.
But now, all of a sudden, let's see what happens here.
They're contending.
He's with Milwaukee. He's as viable as a 1B or a 2A.
He's the best
as
number
there
two
is.
you can have.
But I'd rather, one of the things I always say is, I'd rather have half of a watermelon than 100% of a grape.
Yep.
But that's an ego thing. Oh, it's my company. I started it. I'm the number one. I'm the star. I'm the CEO. I'm the founder. Like Steve Ballmer, using sports analogies. Steve Ballmer, who owns the LA Clippers, worth $3 billion, whatever they are, he was the number two at Microsoft with Bill Gates. Okay, cool. And then he became the CEO, and we all know how that story ends, right? But this is a guy who stayed in his lane, wasn't like the man, played his role, eventually became the guy. Now he's a multi-billionaire, one of the richest guys in the world. He's doing what he loves, and he's running the LA Clippers. So we'll see what happens with them this year. But you don't have to think I'm number one.
Yeah, you're not a failure if you're number two or number three. Everybody has a God-given skill set. Pat just came out with that new book. Was it Choose Your Enemies?
Choose Your Enemies Wisely, yeah.
Who's Adam's enemies?
Dude, this is something
curious.
that I'm working on right now. Thank you.
It's a real a self-awareness question where it made me think
And I'm a guy who's like, I don't want any enemies, bro. I'm the kind of guy that's prided himself that I've been in Miami my whole life. You can go talk to anybody in Miami. I've been out partying, this, that, friends, girls. Nobody is like, scumbag, stole money from me. Never talk to that guy. Clean slate, clean record. Now somebody's going to be like, fucking Adam. But so I always was that guy, like a synergist. Like, guys, it's not that big of a deal. Come on, guys, we don't need to fight about this, whatever. I'm not saying that you shouldn't throw down if time isn't necessary, but come on, guys, famous, the Rodney King thing. Can't we all get along? Remember that? So my enemy's not a person, and I don't even know if it's an ideology. Pat is very clear on his enemy, right? He's a capitalist. He's an entrepreneur. He doesn't like what's happening in America right now. It is very clear who his enemy is, and you can point to certain people that are the figureheads for these ideologies of what's gone that are the enemies. I think for me, as a background, I'm always telling people tighten up, bro. You're a little sloppy. You're being a little sloppy here. Whether it's your money, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your lifestyle, being a little sloppy. So what I've realized is my enemy is just sloppiness. I think what's going on in America today was just getting sloppy. So if you want to use, we don't have an income problem. We have a budgeting problem.
Spending problem, yeah.
We have a spending problem.
Absolutely.
Okay? What's our GDP? $26 trillion a year? Yet our federal debt, $34 trillion. We make more money than everybody. It's like a guy who's a doctor, right? And he makes $1 million a year. He's a plastic surgeon. He's giving all the girls all the titties and the BBLs, and he's doing his thing. He makes $1 million a year. But if you open up the hood of his car, so to speak, he's got a $15,000 a month mortgage. He's got 2 Mercedes and a G-Wagon in the driveway. His wife's expensive. His kids for private school is expensive. His Rolex is expensive. His whole lifestyle is expensive. He's eating out the nicest restaurant. He's doing everything. And he's actually in debt. Yeah. And he's actually in debt. And he makes $1 million a year. If you make $1 million a year and you have debt, but that's the reality of America. I think 50% of millennials who make over 100 grand a year are living paycheck to paycheck. How's that possible? So for America, we're as obese as ever, we're as broke as ever, we're as morally bankrupt as ever. Tighten up. We're getting very sloppy here in America, and that's not a left or right thing. That's an everybody thing. Tighten it up. Tighten up your finances, tighten up your fitness, your health. The big three that I say to life are health, wealth, and happiness. We know what health is. It starts with yourself, right? Like,
If you don't have that, you got nothing.
you got nothing. So would you rather be 99 with $1 billion, or would you rather be 20 and no dollars? I want to be 20. I want to be young. I want to be healthy. I want to be
Time
vibrant.
is the most valuable asset.
Okay. Wealth. We're the richest country in the world. There's a big difference between poor and broke. Poor is you're living in some poor country on the other side of the world, third world country. I just looked at GDP per capita. Some of these African countries, Middle Eastern countries, what have you. Dude, in Afghanistan, you know how much the GDP per capita is? $300 a year. That's what they make a year. You hear what I said, Kevin? And half these countries. In Gaza right now.
It's crazy. A lot of them are happy. A lot of them are happy with.
I'm not saying that they're not happy. I'm just saying they don't have money. They are poor. In America, we're broke.
Yeah.
We are broke. You make 50 grand a year, but you're paycheck to paycheck. You make 100 grand a year, but you're in debt. You're that doctor that makes $1 million a year. Somehow you have a negative net worth. Also throw on some student loans from medical school at $250,000. So America is very sloppy right now. I don't like sloppiness. I'm so, friends of mine, they're like, you're kind of OCD. I'm like, I'd rather be OCD than not giving a shit and sloppy. Constantly, like you saw we were doing the waters, like, just get it together, tighten up. We have so much greatness in America. We've got the best hand, like Jamie Dimon, do you hear what he said?
Well, what's
in
that?
that speech? He goes, America's been dealt the greatest hand ever. We have the best defense mechanism, money combined. I'm not talking about the billions of dollars that we're pumping into the national defense. I'm talking about what's called the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. We're not getting attacked from the ocean, okay? Unless the Canadians start getting an attitude and they want to have a hockey fight, we're not worried about them.
We ain't worried about them.
We see what's happening at the southern border, but I think we can control that if we have a better policy right there. We're not getting attacked over here. If you're going to fucking attack us, you're going to fly a plane somehow, or you're going to fly something into Pearl Harbor. We have the best hand that anyone's ever been dealt. Amazing, okay?
The Constitution.
The Constitution, the ideology, the Declaration of Independence, everything that we have here, capitalism, free markets, cities, America. We have so much going on. And it's funny, it's always the immigrants, the second generation immigrants, or the people that moved here that escaped communism or fascism, Islamism, whatever it is, that are like, yeah, bro, you don't want to go back to where I came from. You don't want to be going to Bangladesh. You don't want any part of Afghanistan, bro. You don't want Venezuela. You guys got it good here in America. And then you have the woke Gen Z libtard folks, right? Who are like, fuck America, it's evil. Really?
Spoiled kids.
Go to Bangladesh, baby. See how it's going on over there, okay? Go hang out with Hamas. Let me know go hand up your Gays for Gaza sign in Gaza. Let me know how that works out for you, Brenda. Not well.
Karen. It does feel like we're morally bankrupt. It's a slippery slope, and we're driving on it. I'm sure you see it all the time where, a guy I know that's making $50,000, $60,000 and has a standard of life, and maybe he gets a raise and he's making $100,000, but the thing is, his standard of life doesn't stay at $50,000. It goes to $120,000.
There's a term for that, right?
What's that?
It's called lifestyle creep. So all of a sudden you're making 50 grand, now you're making 80 grand, or you're making 80 grand, now you're making $120. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
I deserve a nicer car. I deserve a nice new Rolex, right?
Can't take it with
you
me.
get this deserve mentality. What I tell people, I did the exact same thing. I went from making $5 grand my first year in sales to 100 grand. You know what I did? Nothing different. The only thing I did is
showed up.
I'm saying as far as where I was living, all I did was move from the couch that I was crashing on to one of the bedrooms in the apartment that I was renting with my buddies. I had 4 buddies. We had a ridiculous house. We were all splitting the rent. I was the guy on the couch. I kept my overhead low, my flexibility high, and I put 100 grand in the bank after taxes, what have you. And then the next year when I made 150, and the next year when I made 250, dude, I just stacked and stacked and stacked. So by the time I'm 30, I look around, I got more money than guys that are making way more money than me, right? Because I just kept my overhead low, and I didn't keep up with the Joneses. I haven't had a car in 12 years. Think about that. Now, if you live in New York, all right, that's pretty basic. In Miami, you know, the flashiest city around, to not have a car, you know, but I'm Ubering everywhere, and if I'm going out with girls, I'll Uber you wherever you want to go. Don't worry about it.
Tell them to pick you up. The girls don't pick you up.
Oh, good. These girls don't drive. You know that. But it's one of those things where the game has changed, and recognizing that.
Yeah, you know, I think Ty Lopez talks about it a lot. You know, I think a lot of people, they're not willing to do that 1 year of getting punched in the mouth, you know, because their ego.
Yeah.
And what Ty Lopez talks about a lot about is there's princes and I think they're kings. You know, he would describe like Trump as a king, Elon as a king, but look at heavy is the head that wears the crown. Look at what comes with that territory, where what you want to be is the prince. And I'd probably kind of describe you as that, you know what I'm saying? Like you know your role, you get in where you fit in, and there's no ego. Do I think you could start your own media company and, you know, do some of the same stuff? Possibly, but
Hell no. PBD, I'm not doing it, dude. There's no SaaS media happening. I'm running with VT and PBD. But you're right, because I recognized that guy's a leader. I can trust that guy, PBD in this case. Like, you see what's happening with, like, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen?
What's that?
Scottie Pippen is basically saying, I'm the greatest ever. The only reason we won is because MJ had me, bro. Nobody thinks that.
Nobody.
I don't know who's in your ear telling you, Scottie, that they all won because of you. They did win because you helped MJ.
And he is one of the greatest, you know.
He's a top 50 greatest player of all time, but he ain't the GOAT. And it's important for him to recognize that. If all he would say, if he could just get, like, obviously they did that, The Last Dance with MJ during COVID.
It was awesome.
Amazing documentary, and he felt that he was slighted. But rightfully so. He didn't want to go and sit out on the, he wasn't getting the last shot because Tony Kukoc was going to take it, which he made, by the way, which basically was kudos to Phil Jackson, the coach at the time. He said, no, I'm not going to the game if I'm not taking the last shot. The team won. They celebrated without him. Meanwhile, he's getting thrown under the bus as a quitter, as a loser, what have you. It ruined his ego. And he should have said, yo, that was my bad, guys, what have you. So now he sees this documentary. He relives everything that he dealt with. And he basically said, yeah, we won because of me. No, Scottie, the best thing to say is, imagine this. If you say, I'm the greatest player of all time, nobody believes you. Nobody. But if you say, I'm the second greatest player of all time, they'll say, oh, shit, why do you say that? Yeah, because my teammate was Michael Jordan. He's the greatest player of all time. But I was his sidekick. I was the Robin to his Batman. We won 6 NBA championships. I was the guy that did the rebounding, did the assists, everything. I helped number one. I deserve to be the second greatest of all time. People would say, you know what? He's got a case. But he does not have a case for being the greatest of all time. And his failure to recognize that is going to be his downfall.
And you see it a lot, especially, you know, sports. It's like such a correlation with business where you'll see a guy, you know, not a Scottie Pippen, but that's a number 2. And they'll try to go be the number 1, and it doesn't always work out, you know. And one guy that sticks him up, but there is some of the GOATs, some of the greatest, what they're able to do is, say, like a Tyreek Hill, where he's in Kansas City. And I don't know if you knew that narrative. When he came to Miami, a lot of people were saying, you know, he ain't gonna do it without
Mahomes,
that.
It was all exactly.
So some people do feel they want to go create their own legacy, whether it's sports or business. It's a good correlation, but somebody like Tyreek, you know, he knew what he was, and some people just don't have that self-awareness. But it sounds like you had it, you know, at an early age. I unfortunately did not. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a tendency to bite off more than I can chew, try to do too much. But you'll be humbled fast in business, man.
Yeah, of course.
You will be humbled fast in business.
Well, what happened with you? Why did you bite off more you can chew? Give me your story.
I tried. I had an ATM company.
Okay.
And it required a lot of cash. And I tried to grow it along with a point-of-sale company, and I just tried to grow too big, too fast, and it gets to the point where you can't service everybody, and you can't be everywhere, and you can't provide that level of expertise you provided to. And then what you notice is when you scale it back and you go slow at your own pace, what I noticed is you start getting that organic growth, and you start getting like where it's organic, it's natural. It's kind of like, you know, when you meet a girl and you just hit it off. You know, you don't need to force anything, and I know that feeling now in business, you know what I'm saying? But I had to take a couple L's. Same thing with real estate. I have 5 properties now. I want to buy another one. and you start to want to force it. And I'm looking at houses, and the numbers don't make sense. But in my head, oh no, it's gonna be. I'll make it work. I'll raise the rents. I'll fix it up. I'll get a better tenant. And then you realize you're creating the friction, and then basically my biggest problem would be this plateau, where you get to that plateau, and you get to the point where you're just banging your head against a wall, and it's like I can't get over that one hump. But it's just patience. And I'm 38 now. And I look back, and like you said, everything I look back on, good and bad, it all happened for a reason. And what they say, fate leads the willing, but drags the unwilling. So it's like, you just got to go with the flow and, live in the present moment. But what do you think about when you look at Miami? Do you think this is becoming like the crypto capital of the world? Because I'm big into crypto, and that's kind of why I was like looking. I'm like, man, something's happening here.
If it's not Miami, where else would it be?
Dubai, maybe.
Okay.
Dubai, but I mean, it's kind of...
Portugal, I hear good things about Portugal.
Yeah, I would say, though, just for this country, that Miami is further ahead than anything else.
Yeah.
Even like what y'all doing with Manek, I look at that as, innovative. You know what I'm saying? Like, pushing a boundary, something I don't think that's ever been done before. You know what I'm saying? So, like, having an idea, creating a plan, and actually sticking with the plan. Not deviating when you get punched in the mouth. And that, that resilience you talked about. Luckily, I have that. I think, a lot of entrepreneurs, people want to put that in their bio, and they just see they see the end result. They don't see the kitchen. They don't see what went into baking that cake.
It's the iceberg effect. You're familiar with that?
Yep.
Where all you see is the top of the iceberg, what's above water. And you see like this much. But down below the surface is 80, 90% of the iceberg. And that to me is the hard work, the sleepless nights, the drama, the depression, the fights with your girl, the fights with your friends, the bankruptcy, the drama, the holy shit, I'm gonna kill myself. Like all that, but people only see the top of the iceberg. And people have to understand that it's gonna, I'll say this at the end of time. Two of my favorite words in the English dictionary, 4-letter words actually, not the word you're thinking of, buddy, are work and earn. You put in the work and you earn the results. It's simple. We've been doing that forever. But there's a lot of fake success, especially during COVID and the stimulus checks.
And crypto, too.
Crypto
made a bunch of millionaires that got humbled real quick.
Crypto was the great recipient of all this money that got pumped in. You didn't open up a Roth IRA. You didn't save for a down payment on your house. You bought Bumblefuck coin.
Going to the moon.
Bumblefuck coin's going to the moon. You got to go get Bumblefuck coin, all right? And really, the next thing you know is that you're broke and you're living in Bumblefuck back with your parents. So many people don't understand that concept. But I'm a foundation guy. I'm not a get rich quick guy. I'm a build wealth slow guy.
Amen,
I'm constantly looking both ways before I cross the street, looking both ways before I do a business deal. Sometimes I move a little too slow, okay? Some people say, speed it up a little bit, cool. But I'm just doing due diligence. I'd rather that than moving too fast, getting run over by a car, have a business deal go south, burn someone over here, not read the fine print. So proceed with caution.
Well, bro, Adam, I appreciate you coming on, man. Could you let my guests know where they can find you at?
I'm just going to be shacking up with Kevin. That's it. We're roommates now, bro.
Coming to New Orleans, man?
Let's go. We're doing this thing. But no, I appreciate it, Kevin. Fun time, man. Fun time.
Well,
shout out to Gideon too. But anything with Valuetainment, you can find us here. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on every social platform there is, Valuetainment. I co-host the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David. You can see me on there. Trying to keep up with PBD. It ain't easy. You can't do that. Or you can catch me on my own show on YouTube called The Saucecast. It's the sexiest financial show in the world. You're learning stuff. There's valuable information. There's a lot of pretty people on there, specifically women on there that talking that talk, or on all socials, Sauce Talks Money, because all we talk is money.
Yeah, and I'll have all the links to that in the description of this video, y'all. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. Anyway, y'all, we are out. Peace.
Give a sub to the channel, okay?